What's up guys, my name's Liam, and in today's video we're going to be taking a look at the brand new Vaxee PD mouse pads. As you can already tell by the title, one of these is my new main, so in this video I'm going to explain to you why that is. I'm also going to go in as much detail as possible about these mouse pads, and hopefully I'll be able to help you decide whether or not any one of these could possibly be the perfect gaming mouse pad for you. So let's check it out. And before we get started today, I did want to let you know that these were sent out to me. However, everything you'll be hearing in this video is going to be my own words and my own opinions. These did arrive to my front door in a flat package, and there is a couple of different variants as far as the actual size and the colors of these go. As far as I've seen so far, they just have this pink and black colorway. I do hope that Vaxee does come out with some additional colors in the future. I think a blue colorway would also be pretty cool. You also do have a PD140 and PD150. I will be breaking down the differences of those, but you also do have a PD Plus. The differences with the PD and PD Plus is the PD is going to be a smaller version of this pad, standard 2x4 sizing, which is 480 millimeters in width by 400 millimeters in height. All of these will be sitting at 5.5 millimeters in thickness, but then all of the PD Plus pads are going to come in the 500 by 500 size. Now, one of the features about this mouse pad that makes it so unique is starting over here on the base. The base is made out of a PU elastomer, but I will say if you've never had experience with the original Vaxee PD, that base, the feeling of this base is very firm. In fact, I'd say this is one of the most firm bases that is not made out of like a plastic or a glass or anything like that. And also, with that being said, just the overall weight of this pad also is heavy. The base on this is very sticky. Once you do lay this on your desk with the combined weight that this mouse pad does come in at, this thing really does not move around on you at all. And then next up, just like the previous PD, this is using the rounded edge design, so this does not have any stitching. It just really gives you a smoother overall experience as you're moving your arm across the edges of this pad, and the quality of this rounded edge design is impressive. It looks very clean going all the way around from edge to edge. So for the surfaces, Vaxee is using this new numbering system. This version right here is the 140. I also do have the 150. They did announce in a video that they're going to be coming out with different base firmnesses, and they're going to increase the number for each one. So the number 1 is being the most firm base. It also does say in the video that they're going to have a number 2, which is going to be a medium base, and then a number 3, which is going to be more of a soft version. And then the numbers behind the 1 is going to be for the speed. So it did also mention in that video that starting out 40 is going to be the slowest, and then you're going to go 50, 60, and 70. With increasing the number, the speed will also be increasing in the pad. So we will start out talking about the PD Plus 140 firm base and the slowest surface that they are currently offering. Now, I will say that this surface is nothing that is new. This is actually the exact same surface as their PEK, which I just recently reviewed on my channel. So though they are using a surface that I've already become familiar with and that does exist out there on the market, it does add some different characteristics and properties with this base. Now, just to start out talking about just the general experience that you do get with this pad, this is, in my opinion, a very controlled pad, and you do have a noticeable difference in both the X and the Y glide axis. The X does feel slower and more controlled, where the movements along the Y axis do feel faster. Down in the micro adjustments and static friction, you do notice a higher sense of static friction there along the X axis. Once you do get gliding though, I do feel like the dynamic glide on this pad does feel like it's a little bit quicker. And there is actually a difference, however, that this base does add to the properties of the surface versus the older ones. The way that this is created, the process where they develop it with this base, is it does stretch out the surface tighter. And what that actually does is how it impacts the performance is it does give you overall a more controlled and just a little bit of a slower experience compared to the original PEK series pads that I did test out. But one of the reasons why I do like just this combination with this base so much is the consistency that you get with this base. It really is like nothing that I've ever experienced before. And in fact, the reason that I love using these pads so much is since I'm constantly changing out my gaming mice and trying new peripherals constantly, the firmness of this base, if you were to push into it, you hardly notice that much give at all there. But I still feel like you still can push into this and gain some additional control or stopping power. What I like about the firmness of this base so much is it really doesn't matter what type of skates you throw at it. And this base really does work perfectly with just about any type of skates that you put, whether it's the corner skates, dot skates, everything works on here. You don't have to worry about it sinking in as you're using it or anything like that. So that's one of the reasons why I do enjoy using this base so much. And if you've never had experience with the PEK, like I talked about in the original video, the one pad that I found that the performance of this was most similar to is going to be something like the Artisan Type 99. Even the weave on them looks very similar to one another. And just so you know the differences between these two, since this version is a little bit slower than the PEK. When I did the PEK review, I noted it as being a little bit quicker than the Type 99. Since the surface is a little bit slower, it is coming out to be just a little bit slower than the Artisan Type 99. However, the feeling of the surface is really not that far apart from one another, though the difference of the feeling with this base does make them stand apart and feel pretty unique. All right, so next up, we got my favorite pad, the PD Plus 150. And just to sum it up here really quickly, if you have any experience with the previous PD that I reviewed on my channel that did come out with the edgeless design, but it was the smaller pad, this is basically just the exact same thing in a bigger size now. And when I first took this out of the box and started using it, it did feel a little bit slower. So it did kind of in a day or two break in and kind of open up a little bit more, and the speed on it just feels a little bit smoother. Feels like it did get just a little bit quicker to me. Comparing it to the previous PD 140, like I told you all around, this one is quicker. I'll drop a glide test comparison between both of them for you really quick. But really the X and Y axis, there's not a whole lot of difference to me, at least that I notice on this pad. And you still get a really great sense of control, but just something about this surface being as tight as it is paired with this firm of a base, I don't know what it is, but the performance on this is just really addicting to me. And while you're using this, I feel like just the static friction on this feels really smooth. Again, really consistent. You don't notice any type of muddiness there or anything like that. And then you just get a really smooth yet controlled glide as you're using this across the surface. And just really quick, if you're not familiar with my previous Vaxee PD video, the surface that this is using, it is the same surface as the PE or even the PA mouse pads that they used previously, and I've always just really been a huge fan of those. So jumping into the comparisons, I would not normally compare this pad to something like the Artisan FX Zero, though I feel like every time I make a video about a control mouse pad, that is one of the #1 questions that I do get asked. So comparing these to one another, they're honestly not a whole lot to compare between them, as to me, the Artisan FX Zero is pretty much like a speed cloth pad compared to most other control pads out there. So definitely much quicker than this one. So I'll go ahead and drop a really quick glide test comparison between both of them. Next up, when comparing this to something like the Lethal Gaming Gear Saturn Pro, also one of my favorite mouse pads out there, there is a definite noticeable difference between both of these. The Saturn Pro just all around feels like it's a little bit quicker in both the static and the dynamic friction while I've been using them and testing them next to one another. So I'll go and drop the glide test comparison between both of those. And one of the pads that this is going to perform closest to, in my opinion, is going to be something like either the Zowie G-SR II, G-SR III, style of a pad. Now the dynamic glide between both of them was really not that far apart from one another. However, I do feel like in the static, since this does have this firmer style base and the surface is just a little bit tighter, I almost felt like the GSR to me felt like there was a little bit more tugging going back and forth, where this one I just feel like you get a little bit of a smoother experience in the static friction between both of them, though the glide test, not a whole lot of difference between them. So I'll go ahead and drop that for you guys really quick. All right, guys, so that about wraps things up on the brand new Vaxee PD mouse pads. Even though this PD Plus 150 is my favorite pad, do keep in mind my #1 focus and goal when I am creating my videos is to try and help you decide if it's going to work best for you. Some reasons this pad might not work for you. Again, it does have a little bit of a thicker base. For me, it doesn't bother me with this rounded edge design, and I don't really usually mind thicker bases that much. Also, on top of that, is very heavy. And again, the base on this is very firm. So if you are somebody who does prefer a softer option, I would definitely recommend possibly waiting for either the 2 version or the 3 version to come out, 250 or 350. I do believe that is how they're going to be releasing them anyways. And I can guarantee you guys that I will be releasing a review on those videos. Even if they don't get sent out to me, I'm such a big fan of these pads myself. I do plan on purchasing all the different variants of this one, and again, even checking out the faster versions that are going to be coming out in the future. So even if you're interested in looking for faster pads, or that's normally what you prefer in performance, then hopefully that's something that we'll be able to look forward to one day. But so far, Everything about this, if you're into control pads, again, the consistency, whether you use dot skates, anything like that. If all the details that I went over about this pad are something that seems like it's going to be in line with what you're looking for, then I can absolutely recommend it, as I've just been loving using this thing. Even the 140 is a great pad, just a little bit too slow for me, but all around this 150 just kind of brings out the performance that seems to work best for me and my gameplay. So if you guys do have any additional questions or feel like I left anything out, please let me know in the comments down below. If you have enjoyed watching this video and are interested in seeing more videos like this in the future, please drop this video a like and subscribe to my channel. And thank you guys so much for watching. I look forward to seeing you in the next one.